I'm sitting at the Christmas Eve dinner table, holding a glass of red wine that my daughter-in-law just served me with an overly sweet smile, and something in my chest screams at me not to drink it. But before I can even smell it, my son, Marcus, comes up behind me, accidentally bumps the table, and in the flurry of movement, swaps my glass for Tiffany's. It all happens in 2 seconds. Nobody else notices. I don't even understand what just happened myself. 10 minutes later, my daughter-in-law bolts toward the restroom, her face a sickening shade, while everyone else raises their glasses, toasting the family. I stay frozen, my gaze fixed on my son, who is sitting across from me with eyes full of something I can't quite decipher. Fear, rage, protection? Then he leans toward me and whispers in my ear, "Tomorrow on Christmas Day, I'm going to tell you something that will shock you." And in that moment, my whole world begins to collapse. But before I continue with this story that changed my life forever, let me ask you for something. If you're listening to this right now, leave a comment and tell me where you're listening from. I want to know that I'm not alone in this, that there's someone else out there who understands what it feels like when the people you trust the most betray you in the cruelest way. Please write to me. I need to know that my story can serve a purpose. My name is Elijah Hayes. Everyone calls me Eli. I just turned 63, and I've spent my entire life in this beautiful, chaotic city of Atlanta, Georgia. I was born here. I grew up here. I built my business here. And here is where I thought I'd die in peace, surrounded by my family. How naive I was. How blind I had been for so long. Let me tell you who I was before all of this began. I'm a civil engineer by trade, but my true calling was always the construction business. For more than 35 years, I put up high-rises, residential complexes, and commercial centers. I started with nothing, absolutely nothing. My father was a farmer in a small town in rural Georgia, and my mother sold sweet potato pies and goods at the market. I was the first of 7 children to go to college. I paid for my studies by working as a bricklayer in the mornings and studying at night. I will never forget the pain in my hands after hauling bricks all day and then having to hold a pencil to do structural calculations. But it was worth it. Everything was worth it, or so I believed. In time, the business grew. I hired employees, formed a solid construction company, won major government contracts, made contacts, and became, I won't say rich, but a man with enough resources to live well and leave something substantial for my children. I have properties in Atlanta and Hilton Head, South Carolina, investments in funds and savings accounts that I fed for decades, thinking about my family's future. I also have a fairly generous life insurance policy, $3 million, a fortune for anyone, and especially, as I would later discover, for someone with dark ambitions. My wife, Sarah, passed away 5 years ago, pancreatic cancer. It was fast and devastating. She was the center of everything, the one who kept the family together, the one who organized the gatherings, the birthdays, the holiday parties. When she left, I felt like a part of me went dark forever. My children, Marcus and Naomi, were my only comfort during that time. Marcus, my firstborn, is 37. He's a corporate lawyer, hardworking, serious, a little quiet. He was always the responsible one, the one who looked out for his younger sister. Naomi is 32 and lives in Dallas, Texas, with her husband. Although we talk often, the distance means we don't see each other as frequently as I would like. 3 years ago, Marcus met Tiffany. Tiffany Sinclair, 34, a social worker, or so she said. She came from a middle-class family in Alpharetta, with no major apparent pretensions. She was good-looking, educated, and friendly. At first, I liked her. She seemed genuine. She seemed to love my son. They got married a year and a half later in a beautiful ceremony in the backyard of my Buckhead home. I paid for everything, of course, the wedding, the honeymoon in Greece, the down payment on the apartment they live in now in Midtown. I didn't mind. He was my only son, and I had the means to help him. I wanted to see him happy. But something changed after the wedding, something subtle, almost imperceptible. Tiffany started making comments, small insinuations. "Oh, Eli, such a big house for just you. Don't you get lonely? Mr. Hayes, have you thought about what you'll do with all these properties when you're no longer around? Sweetheart, your dad is getting old. Shouldn't we be keeping a closer eye on him?" At first, I took it as legitimate concern, like a daughter-in-law's affection. But over time, those comments became more frequent, more insistent, and always revolved around the same theme. My age, my health, my assets, my future. Marcus also changed. He became more distant, less communicative. We used to have lunch together, at least twice a week. We talked about everything. Politics, business, life. After marrying Tiffany, the visits spaced out. Then they started coming together. But the conversations were no longer the same. Tiffany was always present, always interrupting, always steering the topic toward practical things. Finances, paperwork, inheritances, wills. A year ago, Tiffany suggested I should sell one of my properties in Hilton Head. "It's so far away, Eli. Why do you need it? You should sell it and enjoy the money while you can." I refused. I bought that property with Sarah when we celebrated our 20th anniversary. It holds enormous sentimental value for me. Tiffany smiled and said she understood. But I saw something in her eyes. A spark of frustration, of annoyance. 6 months ago, during a family dinner, Tiffany brought up the topic of my will directly, without mincing words. "Mr. Hayes, you have everything in order, right? I mean, just in case something happens, it's important that your children know your wishes." Marcus looked uncomfortable but said nothing. I replied calmly that yes, everything was in order, that I had a will prepared by my trusted lawyer years ago. She pressed. "And can we know what it says?" I told her, with all the calmness in the world, that it was a private matter between my lawyer and me, and that when the time came, my children would know everything necessary. Tiffany's smile froze. Marcus quickly changed the subject, but I felt something, an unease, a premonition. The following weeks were strange. Tiffany started being more affectionate with me, too affectionate. She'd call to invite me to lunch. She constantly asked about my health. "Are you feeling okay, Eli? Do you have any aches? Are you taking your medication?" "I have high blood pressure. Nothing serious. Controlled with medicine." But she acted as if I were on the verge of death. She brought me teas, supplements, vitamins. "To make you feel better, Mr. Hayes, so you have more energy." I never took them. I don't know why. Intuition, maybe. I kept them in a drawer and threw them away later. Something inside me warned me not to trust blindly. And then December arrived. Christmas. The most beautiful time of the year, but also the most painful since Sarah passed. This year, Tiffany insisted that we spend Christmas Eve at my house. "It would be nice, Eli, like the old days. I'll take care of everything. You just enjoy." Naomi would come from Dallas with her husband. It would be a small but intimate family gathering. I accepted. Of course, I accepted. Despite everything, I wanted to believe that things were fine, that my family loved me, that I was overreacting with my suspicions. Tiffany arrived early on December 24th with Marcus. She carried bags full of food, decorations, and wine. "Tonight is going to be a special night, Mr. Hayes. You'll see." She hugged me, kissed my cheek. She smelled of an expensive, sickly sweet perfume that made me a little nauseous. Marcus was quiet, helping her unpack things. I noticed he avoided my gaze. Naomi and her husband arrived around 7 in the evening. The house filled with laughter and Christmas music. Naomi made eggnog. Her husband put on Christmas carols in the living room. Everything seemed normal. Everything seemed perfect. Tiffany prepared dinner: roast turkey, smoked ham, mac and cheese, collard greens, sweet potato pie. Everything looked delicious. We sat down at the table around 9 that night. Tiffany served the plates with a huge smile. "Tonight we toast to family, to health, to the future." She raised her glass. We all imitated her. I raised mine, but before I could drink, something stopped me. Tiffany approached me with a bottle of red wine. "This wine is special, Eli. I bought it thinking of you. It's a Napa Valley Cabernet, your favorite." And she poured me a generous, too generous glass. She smiled at me, that perfect, rehearsed smile that no longer seemed genuine. "Cheers, Mr. Hayes, to many more years." And she raised her own glass. I looked at the dark, glistening red wine. I brought the glass to my nose to smell it, as I always do. And in that moment, Marcus got up from his chair, walked toward me as if to give me a hug, but on the way, he stumbled against the table. Everything moved. The glasses trembled. And in the middle of the movement, with an almost imperceptible speed, Marcus took my glass and swapped it for Tiffany's. It all happened in 2 seconds. No one saw it. Not Naomi, not her husband, not Tiffany, just me. And I was paralyzed, unable to grasp what had just happened. Marcus returned to his seat. He looked me straight in the eyes. There was something there, something urgent, something terrifying. But he said nothing. He just nodded slightly, as if telling me, "Trust me." Tiffany raised her glass. "Cheers." We all toasted. I barely touched my lips to the rim of the glass, but I didn't drink. Tiffany, on the other hand, took a long, big gulp. I watched her. She watched me back, waiting, as if she were expecting something. The minutes passed. We continued eating and talking. Naomi was sharing stories from Dallas. Her husband was talking about his job. Everything was normal, but I couldn't stop looking at Tiffany, and she couldn't stop looking at me with impatience, with anxiety. And then, exactly 10 minutes later, Tiffany dropped her fork. Her face changed color. It went pale, then red, then green. "Excuse me," she mumbled, and got up from the table, with her hands on her stomach. She walked quickly toward the restroom, very quickly, almost running. We all fell silent. "Is she okay?" Naomi asked. Marcus shrugged. "She's been a little sensitive lately, stomach-wise." But I saw the truth in his eyes. Marcus knew exactly what was wrong with Tiffany, and I was also starting to understand. Noises came from the bathroom. Many noises. Tiffany was having a terrible time. A really terrible time. Naomi got up to go help her, but Marcus stopped her. "Leave her. It'll pass." I looked at him intently. He held my gaze, and in that silence, in that tension, I knew that something terrible was happening, something much worse than I imagined. Tiffany came out of the restroom 20 minutes later, looking distraught, sweating, and shaking. "I feel really sick. I think something didn't agree with me." Marcus stood up. "We'd better head home. Excuse us." He helped her walk toward the door. I followed him. In the doorway, Marcus turned to me and whispered so quietly, I barely heard it. Tomorrow on Christmas Day, I'm going to tell you something that will shock you. Don't eat or drink anything she gives you. Please, Dad. Trust me." And they left, leaving me with a million questions and a cold fear settled in my chest. Naomi and her husband stayed a little longer, but I could barely focus on the conversation. I told them I was tired, and they left around midnight. I was left alone in that huge house, surrounded by Christmas lights and dirty dishes, trying to understand what had happened. I went to the kitchen and looked for the bottle of wine Tiffany had brought. I found it on the counter, and I smelled it. It didn't seem to have anything strange in it. I put it in the refrigerator. Then I checked the glass. Marcus had swapped. I washed it before anyone else could touch it. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to trust. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the living room, staring at the Christmas tree, my heart beating so loudly I could hear it in my ears. What was Marcus going to tell me? What was in that wine? Why was Tiffany expecting me to drink it? And why? Why had my son exchanged the glasses without saying a single word? The hours passed slowly. Outside, fireworks started going off, announcing Christmas Day. Neighbors shouted greetings. I was completely alone, in the darkness, waiting for dawn to hear the truth that would shatter my life. Because something told me that after that conversation with Marcus, nothing would ever be the same. That the family I had trusted, the one I had worked for all my life, was about to reveal a side I never imagined. A dark, calculating, dangerous side. And the worst thing of all was that my own son, the person I trusted most in this world, had kept a terrible secret. A secret that had saved my life that night, but also meant that he knew that he had been seeing something. Something that I, blind and trusting, had refused to see. Christmas morning dawned cold and gray. I was still awake, sitting in the same position, with the same questions swirling in my head. At 8 in the morning, my phone rang. It was Marcus. "Dad, I'm coming over alone. We need to talk." "Come," I said. "I'm waiting." I hung up and prepared myself to hear the truth, a truth I was sure would change everything. Marcus arrived at 9 in the morning on December 25th. I watched him from the living room window, parking his SUV in front of the house. He stayed sitting inside the vehicle for several minutes, hands on the steering wheel, staring straight ahead. From where I was, I could see the tension in his shoulders, the weight of what he was about to tell me. Finally, he got out, walked slowly toward the door, and when I opened it, I saw something on his face that I had never seen before: fear. My son, the serious, quiet lawyer, was afraid. "Come in," I said. There were no hugs, no Christmas greetings, just a dense silence that enveloped us both. Marcus walked in and stood in the middle of the living room, with his hands in his pockets, unsure how to begin. I closed the door and turned toward him. "Tell me what's going on. Tell me what you did last night. And tell me why your wife expected to see me rush to the bathroom like she did." Marcus closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and when he opened them again, I saw tears. My son, who hadn't cried since he was 12 years old, had eyes full of tears. "Dad," he said, his voice cracking, "Tiffany put a powerful laxative in your wine. A very high dose. She wanted to humiliate you. She wanted you to spend Christmas Eve locked in the bathroom, sick, weak, vulnerable in front of everyone. She wanted Naomi and her husband to see you like that. She wanted everyone to think you're losing your grip, that you can't take care of yourself anymore." The world stopped. Marcus's words floated in the air like something unreal, impossible to process. "What?" was all I could say. My voice sounded distant, as if it belonged to someone else. Marcus ran his hands over his face. I saw her yesterday afternoon when we were preparing things in the kitchen. She thought I had gone out to the patio, but I came back for my phone and saw her pouring something into the wine bottle, a transparent liquid. I saw it with my own eyes, Dad. My blood ran cold. I didn't know what to do. If I confronted her right there, she would deny everything. But I couldn't let you drink that wine either. That's why you switched the glasses, I murmured. Marcus nodded. It was the only thing I could think of at the moment. To act fast, to make her taste her own medicine. I wanted her to feel what she had planned for you, and it worked. It worked too well. I sat down on the sofa because my legs could no longer hold me. My daughter-in-law, the woman who sat at my table, who ate my food, who slept with my son, had tried to humiliate me in the cruelest way possible. And not just that, there was something else behind it. There had to be. Marcus, I said, looking up at him, this isn't just about humiliating me. Nobody does something like this just out of spite. What else is going on? What else do you know? My son slumped into the armchair across from me. He looked exhausted, destroyed. Dad, I have to tell you what I've been seeing for months. Things I didn't want to believe, things I tried to ignore, because I was ashamed to admit that I married someone like that. He rubbed his eyes with the back of his hand. Tiffany is obsessed with your money, with your properties, with your life insurance, and it's not a casual obsession. It's something sick, calculated. The air in the room grew heavy. Explain yourself, I told him. Marcus pulled out his phone. Let me show you something. 3 weeks ago, I accidentally saw messages on her phone. She was asleep, and her phone rang several times. I picked it up to silence it and saw the notifications. They were from a group chat on WhatsApp, a group called Project Haze. A shiver ran down my spine. Project Haze? Marcus nodded. Yes, Dad. Project Haze, like your surname. I opened the chat. I couldn't help it. And what I read destroyed me. He showed me his phone. It contained screenshots, conversations. She's in contact with 2 people, a man named Gerald, who's a financial advisor, and a woman named Denise, who's a title attorney. They are planning something big, something that involves your assets. I took the phone and started reading. The messages were from October, 2 months ago. Gerald, have you already found out how many properties he has registered in his name? Tiffany, 3 in Atlanta, 1 in Hilton Head, and 2 lots on Lake Lanier. Denise, and the life insurance? Tiffany, $3 million. Current beneficiaries, Marcus and Naomi, split 50-50. Gerald, we need him to change the will, or better yet, grant a durable power of attorney to Marcus. With that, we'd have access to everything. My hands were trembling. I kept reading. Tiffany, the problem is the old man is suspicious. He doesn't want to talk about inheritances. He says everything is in order, but he won't tell us what his will says. Denise, what if you pressure him from another angle? Health, age, accidents. Make him see that he needs help. Tiffany, I'm already doing it. I bring him vitamins. I ask him how he feels. But he's stubborn. He won't give in. Gerald, then we have to speed things up. We need him to sign something. Anything. A document, a piece of paper, even a simple permission that we can modify later. I stopped. I looked at Marcus. Modify later? Marcus clenched his teeth. Yes, Dad. Fraud. Forgery of documents. They are planning to scam you, empty your accounts, take everything while you're still alive. And then, when you're gone, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. I continued reading. The messages went on. Tiffany. The daughter lives in Dallas. She hardly ever visits. The old man is alone most of the time. It's the perfect moment. Denise. Does Marcus suspect anything? Tiffany. Marcus is an idiot. He's so busy with his job he doesn't see anything. He trusts me blindly. I can handle him. Those words. Marcus is an idiot. I looked at my son. His jaw was tense, his eyes glistening with contained rage. Keep reading, he said in a hoarse voice. The next message was from 2 weeks ago. Gerald. I propose something more aggressive. If we can't do it the nice way, we have to think of other options. Denise. What kind of options? Gerald. Accidents, falls, stairs, those kinds of things. A man his age with high blood pressure could suffer a mishap at any moment, and if that happens, the insurance activates automatically. Tiffany. I like the way you think, but it has to look natural, nothing suspicious. I let the phone fall. I stared at the wall. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. My daughter-in-law, the woman who affectionately called me Eli, was planning to hurt me. She was considering causing me an accident, killing me, to get my money. My God, I whispered. My God, Marcus. My son got up and started pacing back and forth. When I read that, Dad, I froze. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was a joke, that maybe I was misinterpreting things. But I kept reading, and every message was worse than the last. There's more, much more. Show me everything, I told him. Marcus came back to my side. He showed me more screenshots, recent conversations from a week ago. Tiffany, I already have a plan for Christmas Eve. I'm going to make him look like a senile old man. I'm going to humiliate him. When Naomi sees him like that, she'll agree that he needs help. That's when we suggest a legal guardian. And that guardian will be me. Well, it will be Marcus. But I control. Him. Gerald. How are you going to do it? Tiffany. Laxative. A good dose in his wine. He's going to spend the whole night in the bathroom. Everyone will see him weak, incapable. And then we can start talking about how he needs medical supervision, that his health is failing. I closed my eyes. The plan. The whole damn plan was written. Right there. Documented. Did you save these conversations? I asked Marcus. Every single one, he replied. I backed them up in the cloud, in 3 different accounts. I have proof of everything, Dad. Of every message, every plan, every intention. I stood up. Rage began to replace the shock. Since when have you known this? Marcus lowered his gaze. For 3 weeks, since I discovered the messages. And since then, I've been watching her, tracking her movements, listening to her calls, recording conversations. Recording? Marcus nodded. Yes. I bought a small recorder and hid it in my jacket. I've recorded several conversations between her and those two, Gerald and Denise. They've met 3 times at a coffee shop in Alpharetta. I have everything recorded. Their voices, their plans, everything. Why didn't you tell me anything sooner? I asked. My voice sounded harsher than I intended. Marcus winced. Because I was scared, Dad. Scared of being wrong. Scared of ruining my marriage if it turned out I was misinterpreting things. But most of all, I was scared she would do something to you before we could stop her. That's why I acted last night, because I saw that the laxative was real, that she was serious, and I couldn't let her humiliate you like that. I took a deep breath. I tried to calm the trembling in my hands. Does she know that you know? Marcus shook his head. No. Last night when we got home, she was so sick. She just wanted to sleep. I told her it was probably something She ate earlier. She doesn't suspect anything yet. And what do you plan to do? Marcus looked me straight in the eyes. We're going to destroy her, Dad. Legally and completely. But we have to be smart. We can't confront her directly yet. We need more evidence, solid evidence. We need to tie Gerald and Denise in, prove the conspiracy. And we need to protect you, because if she realizes we know, she might do something desperate. I sat down again. My mind was spinning. What do you suggest? Marcus pulled a notebook from his backpack. It had notes, dates, and names. He had been preparing for this. First, I need you to change all your passwords. Banks, email, everything. She knows some of your passwords. She can't have access to anything. I nodded. Second, I need you to talk to your lawyer urgently. Have him review your will. Check that there are no strange documents in your name, no signatures you don't recall, nothing. I'll do it today, I said. Marcus continued. Third, we're going to set a trap. I'm going to tell Tiffany that you're considering granting a power of attorney, that you're worried about your health, and want me to have access to your accounts in case of an emergency. She'll jump at the bait. She'll pressure you to do it quickly. And when she does, I'm going to record her. I'm going to record every word, every manipulation, every attempt at fraud. And after that? I asked. Marcus clenched his fists. After that, we go to the police with all the evidence, the messages, the recordings, the names of her accomplices, and we sink her and everyone involved. I was silent for a moment, processing, planning. How much time do you need to gather all the evidence? Marcus thought, 2 weeks, maybe 3. I need to record more conversations. I need her to feel confident, to talk more, to reveal more details. 3 weeks, I repeated. Can you act like nothing is wrong for 3 weeks? Live with her, knowing what you know. Marcus swallowed hard. I have to, Dad. For you, for us, for justice. I held out my hand to him. He took it. All right. We'll do it your way. But I need you to promise me something. Marcus nodded. Anything. If at any moment you feel you are in danger, if she suspects anything, you get out immediately. You come here. Don't take any chances. Understood? Marcus squeezed my hand. Understood. We stayed like that for a moment, father and son, united against a threat neither of us had seen coming. Finally, Marcus stood up. I have to go. Tiffany will wake up soon, and she can't know I was here. I told her I was going to church. He walked toward the door, but stopped before leaving. Dad, one more thing. Don't trust anyone. Don't tell Naomi yet. Don't tell your friends. No one can know we are investigating. If Tiffany finds out, she'll disappear. And with her, all the evidence. I know, I said. I'll be careful. Marcus hugged me, a strong, desperate embrace. I love you, Dad. And I swear, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to fix the mess I brought into your life. I returned the hug. It's not your fault, son. She fooled both of us. Marcus left. I watched him get into his SUV and drive away. And when the street was empty, I went back into the house and locked the door. I stood there, in the silence, trying to process everything I had just heard. My daughter-in-law wanted my money, my properties, my life, and she had recruited help, a financial advisor and a title attorney. Professionals willing to commit fraud, willing even to consider something much worse. An accident, a fall, something that would look natural. I went to my study, took out a new notebook, and started writing everything down. Every detail, every name, every date. If something happened to me, someone had to know the truth. I wrote for hours. I documented every conversation I had had with Tiffany, in recent months. Every strange comment, every question about money, every insinuation about my health. When I finished, I put the notebook in my safe along with copies of my important documents, my will, my deeds, everything. Then I called my lawyer, Arthur Jenkins, a man my age with whom I've worked for 20 years. Art, I need to see you. Urgent. Today, if possible. Arthur heard the tone in my voice. Are you okay, Eli? No, I admitted. I'm not okay, but I will be. I need your help. Come to my house in 2 hours. I'll be waiting for you. I hung up, took a shower, and changed my clothes. As I got ready, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Determination, strength. I was not going to be a victim. I was not going to let them rob me. I was not going to let them humiliate me. And I was definitely not going to let them hurt me. If Tiffany wanted a war, she would have one, but it would be a war she never expected. Because I wasn't a helpless old man. I was a man who had built an empire from scratch, who had survived crises, losses, and betrayals. And I wasn't going to fall now. I left my house with the evidence Marcus had given me, with my notebook, with my rage transformed into strategy. I was going to see Arthur. I was going to protect my assets. I was going to protect myself. And when the time came, when we had all the necessary evidence, we were going to destroy Tiffany Sinclair and all her accomplices. Because no one, absolutely no one, was going to steal what took Elijah Hayes a lifetime to achieve, and certainly no one was going to threaten his life and get away with it. This was just beginning. Arthur Jenkins' house was in a quiet area of Druid Hills, surrounded by magnolias and flowering trees. I had been there hundreds of times over the years, but this time was different. This time, I wasn't going to talk about contracts or deeds. I was going to talk about survival. I rang the doorbell, and Arthur opened it almost immediately. He looked me up and down, evaluating me with those lawyer's eyes that never miss a detail. You look terrible, Eli, he said bluntly. Come in. You need some coffee. And we went into his study, a room with walls lined with legal books, framed diplomas, and family photographs. Arthur poured me coffee in a porcelain cup and sat across from me. Now tell me what's going on. I took a deep breath and began. I told him everything, from Tiffany's strange comments to the messages Marcus had discovered. I showed him the screenshots on my phone. I explained about the laxative in the wine, the glass swap, the planned humiliation. Arthur listened in silence, his brow furrowing more and more. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and took off his glasses. My God, Eli, this is extremely serious. I know, I said. That's why I came to you. I need to know how vulnerable I am legally. I need to make sure they can't touch anything of mine without my express consent. Arthur put his glasses back on and opened his laptop. Let me check your files. I need to see your current will, your valid powers of attorney, and any document you've signed in the last 2 years. We spent the next 3 hours reviewing every paper. Arthur was meticulous, reading every clause, every tiny line. Finally, he closed the laptop and looked at me seriously. You're lucky, Eli. There's nothing irregular. Your will is clean. You haven't signed any power of attorney. Your properties are all in your name, with no strange liens. But that doesn't mean you're completely protected. What do you mean? I asked. Arthur stood up and went to one of his shelves. He took out a folder and returned. These guys, Gerald and Denise, if they are who I think they are known in certain circles for doing dirty work. Gerald Villarreal is a financial advisor who has been involved in 2 fraud cases that I know of. They could never prove anything to him, but his reputation is tainted. And Denise Soto, the title attorney, was suspended 3 years ago for irregularities in documents. They reinstated her after 6 months, but the record is there. I felt a chill. How do you know it's them? Arthur opened the folder. It contained photographs, newspaper clippings. There is a small circle of corrupt professionals in this city who specialize in scamming older people. I have litigated against some of them. When you mentioned the names, I immediately thought of these 2. And if it is them, Eli, you are in serious danger. These people don't play around. They have emptied entire accounts. They have forged signatures. They have manipulated wills. And the worst part is, they are good at what they do. Very good. I remained silent, processing the information. What do you recommend? Arthur closed the folder. First, we're going to bulletproof everything. Today, I'm going to prepare additional documents specifying that any power of attorney you grant must be ratified by me personally. I'm going to notify your banks that they cannot process any major transaction without your physical presence and a confirmation call to this office. I'm going to put alerts on all your properties so that any attempt to transfer or place a lien comes directly to me immediately. Is that legal? I asked. Arthur smiled slightly. It's precautionary and completely legal. You are my client, and you are taking steps to protect your assets. No one can object to that. I nodded. What else? Arthur became serious. Second, you need Marcus to keep collecting evidence, but he has to do it carefully. If Tiffany suspects anything, she can become unpredictable. And third, we need to involve the police, but not yet. First, we need a solid, irrefutable case because if we go too soon, they will hire good lawyers and slip away. Marcus said he needs 2 or 3 weeks, I commented. Arthur thought. That could work, but during that time, Eli, you have to be extremely careful. Don't accept anything from Tiffany. No food, no drink, no medication, nothing. And never be alone with her. There always has to be someone else present. Do you think she would actually try to do something physical to me? The question sounded absurd coming out of my mouth. Arthur didn't hesitate. Yes, if she feels cornered. Yes, I've seen similar cases. Desperate people do desperate things, and we're talking about millions of dollars, Eli. For that amount of money, people are capable of anything. I left Arthur's house with a strange feeling. On one hand, I felt relief knowing that my assets were protected. On the other, I had a constant fear settled in my chest, a fear that I couldn't share with anyone but Marcus and Arthur. I went straight to my bank. I spoke with the manager, Brenda Davis, an efficient woman who had known me for years. I explained that I wanted to put additional security measures on all my accounts. She didn't ask questions. She simply processed the requests. Now, any movement greater than $5,000 required my physical presence, an official ID, and a confirmation call to Arthur's office. The following days were strange. Tiffany called me twice. Eli, how are you feeling? I hope the dinner didn't upset your stomach. Her voice sounded sweet. Worried, I answered in monosyllables. I'm fine. Thank you. Are you sure? I felt terrible that night. I think there was something in the food. Probably, I told her, without giving her much rope. I could feel her frustration on the other end of the line. She expected me to complain, to tell her that I had felt sick, that I had spent the night in the bathroom. But I didn't give her that satisfaction. Marcus sent me daily text messages, brief reports. All good. She doesn't suspect anything. Today she met Gerald at a coffee shop. I followed them, I recorded them. They are pressuring her to speed things up. She says you are more stubborn than she thought. Every message gave me a little peace and a little more rage. My son was risking himself for me, living with a viper, pretending that everything was fine. A week after Christmas, Tiffany and Marcus came to visit me. I was prepared. Arthur had advised me to receive them normally, not to show any suspicion. Act as always, he had told me. Don't give them any reason to think you know something. I received them in the living room. Tiffany brought a red velvet cake. I made it especially for you, Eli. I know you love it. I smiled and accepted it, but I threw it in the trash later when they left. I wasn't going to risk it. During the visit, Tiffany brought up the topic I knew she would. Mr. Hayes, Marcus and I were talking. You're at an age where it would be good to have everything more organized. I mean, we don't want to think about bad things, but you never know. Have you thought about getting a power of attorney? Something that gives Marcus access to your accounts in case of an emergency? There was the hook. I looked at Marcus. His face remained neutral, but I could see the tension in his jaw. Why are you asking me that? I said, looking directly at Tiffany. She smiled. Because we love you, Eli. Because we worry about you. If something were to happen to you, if you had an accident or got sick, Marcus would need to be able to handle your affairs, pay for the hospital, doctors, medicine, those kinds of things. I already have all that covered, I told her. I have insurance. I have a lawyer. Everything is in order. Tiffany insisted. But it would be easier if Marcus had power of attorney. He wouldn't have to call the lawyer every time. It would be faster, more efficient. I shook my head. I don't see the need. As I told you, everything is in order. But thank you for your concern. I saw the frustration in her eyes. She pressed her lips together and tried to change strategy. And what does your will say, Eli? Excuse me for asking, but it's important for Marcus to know, to avoid problems later. My will is a private matter, I said firmly. When the time comes, everyone will know what is necessary. But that time is not now. Tiffany forced a smile. Of course. Of course. It was just a question. But I had seen what I needed to see. The urgency, the anxiety. She was desperate, and that made her dangerous. When they left, Marcus sent me a message. Perfect, Dad. I recorded the whole thing. It's clear. She's pushing. Tomorrow I have another meeting with Gerald and Denise. I'm going to record that one too. I replied, Be careful. Very careful. He always answered, Will do. The days passed slowly. I spent my time locked in the house, reviewing documents, talking to Arthur, waiting for news from Marcus. I started to feel paranoid. I checked the windows at night. I verified that all the doors were locked. I stopped accepting unexpected visits. Naomi called me from Dallas. Dad, are you okay? You sound strange. I'm fine, honey. Just a little tired. Are you sure? Marcus told me he saw you looking a little tense last time. Marcus had prepared the ground. He had told Naomi that I was a little stressed, but nothing serious. I followed the script. It's my age, my love. Sometimes you get melancholic after the holidays. Nothing to worry about. But Naomi knew her father. Something happened on Christmas Eve. Tiffany left very quickly. And you were quiet all night. Nothing happened, I lied. She felt sick to her stomach. That's all. Naomi didn't sound convinced, but she didn't insist. Well, if you need anything, call me. I'm going to visit next weekend, okay? That sounds perfect, honey. But that weekend never arrived. Because 3 days later, Marcus called me in the middle of the night. His voice was frantic, scared. Dad, I need you to come get me now, please. I jumped out of bed. What happened? Tiffany found out. She found the recordings. We're arguing. She got violent. She broke my phone. Dad, you have to come, please. I didn't think twice. I got dressed in 30 seconds, grabbed my SUV keys, and sped off toward Midtown. I drove like a madman, running red lights, praying there were no police cars. I arrived at Marcus's building in 15 minutes. I ran up the stairs, not waiting for the elevator. I knocked on the door. Marcus, it's me. The door opened. My son was there, his lips split and bleeding. Behind him, Tiffany stood in the middle of the living room, her hair disheveled, her eyes bloodshot with rage. In her hand, she held a kitchen knife. Tiffany, I said, in a calm voice, though my heart was pounding 1,000 miles an hour. Put that down. She looked at me as if I were her worst enemy. You! This is your fault. Everything is your fault. If you had signed the power of attorney, none of this would have happened. Put the knife down, I repeated. Marcus moved aside, away from her. Dad, I already called the police. They're on their way. Tiffany let out a hysterical laugh. The police? You're going to turn me in, Marcus? After everything we've been through together, you're going to turn me in? You tried to swindle me, Marcus said firmly. You tried to harm my father. You are not the woman I married. Or maybe you always were this, and I was too stupid to see it. Tiffany pointed the knife toward him. Don't you dare call me a swindler. I just wanted what was rightfully ours, what your father owes us. He has millions, and lives alone in this huge house like a selfish old man. He doesn't want to share anything. He doesn't want to help us. I don't owe you anything, I said firmly. What I have, I earned with my hard work, with my effort, and I can do with it what I want. Tiffany took a step toward me. You are a stingy old man, a bitter old man who's going to die alone, and when that happens, we'll get everything anyway. So why don't you make things easier for us now? Because what you wanted wasn't help, I told her. It was theft. It was fraud. And you were planning something worse. Accidents, falls. I know everything, Tiffany. I have the proof. Her face changed. From anger, it shifted to fear. What proof? Marcus spoke. The messages, the recordings, everything. I have copies of every conversation you had with Gerald and Denise. I have recordings of your meetings. I have proof that you planned to defraud him, and I have proof that you considered physical harm. Tiffany dropped the knife. It fell to the floor with a metallic clatter. She collapsed onto the sofa, covering her face with her hands. It can't be. It can't be. At that moment, sirens were heard outside. The police had arrived. Marcus ran to open the door. 3 officers entered it. I quickly explained the situation to them. I showed them some of the screenshots Marcus had sent me on my phone. I told them she had threatened my son with a knife. The officers looked at the knife on the floor, looked at Marcus's split lip, and handcuffed Tiffany. This isn't over, she screamed as they led her away. I have lawyers. I have contacts. You don't know who you're messing with. But her voice sounded desperate, empty. The officers took her away. Marcus and I were left alone in the apartment. He slumped onto the sofa, trembling. I sat next to him and hugged him. It's over, son. It's over. What if she follows through on her threat? Marcus asked. What if her lawyers get her out? They won't, I said with confidence. We have too much evidence. And besides, Arthur is already preparing a formal lawsuit against her. Gerald. And Denise. We're going to sink them all. That night, Marcus stayed at my house. He didn't want to go back to the apartment where he had lived with Tiffany. That place is contaminated, he told me one night as we drank coffee on the terrace. Every corner reminds me of her lies. Every piece of furniture reminds me of how blind I was. I didn't contradict him. I knew he needed time to heal. Time to forgive himself for not seeing the signs earlier. The next day, we went to Arthur's office. We told him what had happened. Arthur took notes on everything. Good. Now we have enough. I'm going to file the lawsuit today. Fraud, attempted extortion, threats, domestic violence. And I'm going to request a restraining order so that Tiffany cannot approach either of you. The following days were a whirlwind. The police conducted a thorough investigation. They tracked Gerald's and Denise's phones. They found more messages, more evidence. They discovered they had tried the same thing with 2 other older people in the last year. One of them had died under suspicious circumstances. A fall down the stairs. The case was reopened. The investigation expanded. Tiffany tried to negotiate. Her lawyer contacted us. My client is willing to plead guilty to minor charges in exchange for a reduced sentence. Arthur consulted us. Marcus and I looked at each other. No, we said at the same time. We want this to go to trial. We want everyone to know what she did. We want complete justice. The trial was scheduled for 3 months later. Meanwhile, Tiffany was held in preventative custody without bail. The judge considered her a danger to society. Marcus initiated divorce proceedings. It was fast. There were no communal assets, no children, just paperwork and signatures. Gerald and Denise were also arrested. Their offices were raided. They found fake documents, forged signatures, and evidence of multiple frauds. The scandal was enormous. It made the news. Scammer Network preyed on older adults in Atlanta. I became a kind of symbol. The media wanted to interview me, the man who exposed a fraud network. But I refused. I didn't want to be famous. I just wanted justice and protection for others like me. Arthur suggested we issue a statement through the State Bar Association. A warning to other older adults. Be careful of those who get too close. Be careful of insistent questions about money, property, and inheritances. Be careful of pressure to sign documents. Be careful of people who make you feel incapable or weak. The statement was widely distributed. Several people later came forward, saying they had experienced similar situations, that they suspected relatives or acquaintances. More investigations were opened. Finally, the day of the trial arrived. The courtroom was packed. Naomi came from Dallas to accompany us. Arthur presented all the evidence, the screenshots, the audio recordings, the testimonies, the fake documents found in Gerald's and Denise's offices. The case was irrefutable. Tiffany tried to cry on the stand. I only wanted to help my husband, to help my family. But her story didn't align with the evidence. The messages were clear. The intention was clear. The jury deliberated for 2 days. When they returned, the verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all counts. Tiffany was sentenced to 12 years in prison, Gerald to 15, and Denise to 13. Additionally, they had to pay restitution to all their previous victims, millions of dollars. Their professional careers were destroyed. Their names were tainted forever. When we left the court, Marcus hugged me. We won, Dad. We won. Yes, son, I said. We won. But the victory felt bittersweet, because although we had obtained justice, something had been broken along the way. Trust, innocence, the ability to believe that people are good by nature. That night at home, the three of us ate dinner together, Marcus, Naomi, and I, like a family, like it should have always been. Naomi raised her glass. To Dad, for his bravery, for not letting himself be defeated. Marcus raised his. To justice, to the truth. I raised mine. To family, to the real family, the one that stays when things get tough. We toasted. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Not a complete, not a perfect, but peace at last. The months that followed the trial were about slow reconstruction, not only of my life, but also of the relationship with my children. Marcus temporarily moved into my house. He didn't want to return to the apartment where he had lived with Tiffany. That place is contaminated, he told me one night while we were drinking coffee on the terrace. Every corner reminds me of her lies. Every piece of furniture reminds me of how blind I was. I didn't contradict him. I knew he needed time to heal, time to forgive himself for not seeing the signs sooner. Naomi came to visit us every 2 weeks. She took Friday off and drove from Dallas to spend the weekend with us. One of those afternoons, while we were preparing barbecue in the backyard, she asked me a question I knew would come, sooner or later. Dad, how did you know? How did you know something wasn't right with Tiffany before everything exploded? I paused to think. The truth was complicated. I didn't know for certain, I admitted. They were little things, comments, looks, questions that were repeated too much. At first, I ignored them. I thought I was being paranoid. I thought losing your mother had made me distrustful. But something inside me, an instinct you develop over the years, told me that something didn't add up. Naomi nodded. I felt something strange, too. The first time I met her, she seemed too perfect, too kind, too eager to please. But I told myself I was being unfair, that I shouldn't judge her without knowing her. We all make that mistake, I told her. We want to believe the best in people, especially when those people are close to those we love. Marcus approached with the plates for the meat. I was the worst of all, he said bitterly. I lived with her for 3 years. I slept next to her, I believed her every word, and I never suspected anything until I saw those messages. He sat down next to us. Do you know what hurts the most? It's not that she tried to steal. It's not that she planned to hurt you, Dad. It's that she never loved me. Not a single day. Everything was an act. Everything was part of a plan. I put my hand on his shoulder. You don't know that, son. People are complex. Maybe in the beginning, there was something real. Maybe later, ambition corrupted everything. Or maybe you're right, and it was all a lie from the start. But it doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that you got out of there, that you are here, that you are alive and free. Marcus looked at me with teary eyes. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't seen those messages. If I hadn't discovered the plan, would they have succeeded? Would they have hurt you? We won't know, I said, and it's better that way. We can't live in the what if. We can only live in the now. But I did wonder. At night, when I couldn't sleep, I imagined scenarios. I saw myself drinking that wine with the laxative. I saw myself humiliated in front of my family. And then I imagined myself signing documents under pressure. I imagined myself falling down the stairs. I imagined myself in a hospital, weak and confused, while Tiffany convinced the doctors that I was no longer fit to handle my own affairs. I imagined my funeral, Tiffany crying falsely, Marcus not knowing that his wife had been responsible, and those images kept me awake. Arthur recommended I see a therapist. Eli, this was trauma. Not just physical, but emotional, psychological. You can't process it alone. At first, I resisted. I was of the generation that didn't talk about feelings, that endured, that moved on. But after 3 weeks of insomnia, I accepted. The therapist was named Dr. Alan Rhodes, a young man about 40 years old with a calm voice and infinite patience. Mr. Hayes, he told me in the first session, what you experienced is what we call complex relational betrayal. It wasn't just one betrayal. There were multiple layers. Betrayal of trust, family betrayal, financial betrayal, and betrayal with intent to harm. It's normal that you are feeling fear, rage, and confusion. And how am I supposed to overcome them? I asked him. Dr. Rhodes smiled slightly. It's not about overcoming. It's about processing, understanding, healing little by little, and above all, not letting this experience turn you into someone you are no longer. Fear is natural, but it cannot become your prison. His words resonated with me, because that was exactly what was happening. Fear had become my prison. I was afraid to leave the house, afraid to meet new people, afraid to trust, afraid to live. The sessions with Dr. Rhodes helped me. Slowly, I began to understand that what had happened was not my fault, that I had not been naive or foolish, that I had been a victim of people who were experts in manipulation, and that my reaction, my instinct to distrust, was what had saved me. We also worked on the topic of forgiveness. Do you think you can ever forgive Tiffany? Dr. Rhodes asked me in one session. I don't know, I admitted. A part of me wants to hate her forever. It wants her to suffer for what she did, but another part is tired of carrying that weight. Forgiveness is not for her, he explained to me. It's for you. Forgiving does not mean forgetting. It doesn't mean justifying. It means releasing. Releasing yourself from the weight of the resentment, of the rage that consumes you inside. And how is that done? I asked him. Step by step, he replied. Day by day, allowing yourself to feel, allowing yourself to cry, allowing yourself to be angry, but without getting trapped there. I cried a lot in those sessions. I cried for the betrayal. I cried for Marcus and everything he had lost. I cried for the innocence I would no longer have. And I also cried for Sarah, because deep down, none of this would have happened if she were alive. She would have seen Tiffany for who she was. She would have protected me, and without her, I had been left vulnerable. 6 months after the trial, I received a letter. It came from the state prison. It was from Tiffany. My first instinct was to throw it in the trash without opening it. But something stopped me. I left it on my desk for 3 days, looking at it, wondering if I should read it. Finally, one rainy afternoon, I opened it. Dear Mr. Hayes, it began. The letter was long, several pages written in small, cramped handwriting. I don't expect you to believe me. I don't expect you to forgive me. But I need you to know the truth. Not all the truth that was told at the trial. My truth. I kept reading. Tiffany spoke of her childhood, of an absent father and an alcoholic mother, of growing up in poverty, of seeing her family lose everything when her father ran up debts with loan sharks. Since I was a child, I learned that money is the only thing that matters, she wrote. That without money, you are invisible. That people only respect you if you have something to back you up. She spoke of how she met Gerald in college, of how he showed her that there were ways to get money without working so hard. Smart ways, he called them. Illegal ways, I thought. Then she met Denise, and together they formed what she called a team of opportunities. They had swindled 5 people before me, but I was the biggest prize. When I met Marcus, she wrote, I didn't expect to fall in love, but I did, at first, for the first few months. He was good, kind, everything I hadn't known. But then, when I found out who his father was, when I found out how much money you had, something changed in me. The ambition returned, and little by little, the love left. Gerald and Denise pressured me. They said this was the opportunity of our lives, that after this, we could retire, live comfortably. And I believed them. I convinced myself that you didn't need all that money, that we deserved it more, that it was fair. I felt nauseous reading that. Fair. She believed that robbing me was fair. The laxative was my idea, she continued. I wanted to humiliate you. I wanted your family to see that you were no longer the strong man everyone remembered, that you needed help. I wanted to open the door for the next step. But I never thought about physical harm. That was Gerald's idea. And I said yes because I was afraid of being left out of the plan. But I wouldn't have done it, I swear. I would never have allowed anything to happen to you. I put the letter down on the desk. Should I believe her? It didn't matter if I believed her or not. She was still guilty. She was still a manipulator. But there was something in her words that made me think. Maybe she, too, was a victim. Not of me, but of her own ambition, her own history, of the people around her. It didn't excuse her, but it humanized her. And maybe, just maybe, that was what I needed to start letting go of the resentment. I showed the letter to Marcus. He read it in silence. When he finished, he carefully folded it and handed it back to me. What do you think? I asked him. Marcus sighed. I think she's trying to justify herself. I think she wants us to see her as a victim. But I also think there's probably some truth in there, not in everything, but in something. Do you forgive her? I asked him directly. Marcus thought for a long time before answering. No, not yet, maybe never, but I don't hate her anymore. And that's progress. A few months later, Tiffany's lawyer contacted me again. My client wants to see you. She wants to talk to you face to face. Arthur advised me not to go. You have no obligation, Eli. Nothing good can come of it. But Dr. Rhodes had a different opinion. Sometimes closure comes from confrontation, from looking at the person who hurt you and telling them what you need to say. But only if you feel ready, only if you want to. I thought about it for weeks. Finally, I decided to go, not for her, but for me, because I needed to see her. I needed to tell her things I hadn't been able to say at the trial. The visit was scheduled for a Tuesday afternoon. Arthur insisted on accompanying me. Marcus also wanted to go, but I asked him not to. This is something I need to do alone. Well, not alone, but without my son. The state prison was a gray, cold place. We went through 4 security checkpoints before reaching the visiting room. It was a small room, with a metal table and 2 chairs on each side. Tiffany was already there when we entered. She looked different. No makeup, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore the prison's beige uniform. When she saw me, her eyes filled with tears. "Mr. Hayes," she said, her voice cracking. I didn't respond. I sat across from her. Arthur stood by the door. Tiffany waited for me to speak first, but I just looked at her, observing, analyzing, looking for signs of sincerity or manipulation. "Thank you for coming," she finally said. "I didn't think you would." "I almost didn't," I admitted. "But I need answers, real answers. Not the ones you gave the judge, not the ones you wrote in your letter. The complete truth." Tiffany nodded. Ask me anything you want. Did you ever feel anything real for my son? She closed her eyes. Yes. At first, for the first few months. Marcus was different from all the men I had known. But then, when I found out who his father was, when I saw the opportunity, I let the ambition win. And that's something I'll have to live with forever. Would you have gone all the way? I asked. Would you have allowed them to cause me physical harm? Tiffany looked me straight in the eyes. I don't know. I want to say no. I want to believe that at the last moment I would have backed out, but the truth is, I don't know, and that terrifies me. At least she was honest about that. How many people like me are there? I asked her. How many victims did you leave behind before me? 5, she admitted. 3 in Atlanta, 1 in Alpharetta, 1 in Buckhead. Older adults without close family or with distant family, vulnerable people. And do you regret it? I cry every day. Every night I lie down in this cell and I see their faces. I see the trust they had in us, and I hate myself for what I did. Regret doesn't erase the damage, I told her. It doesn't give you back your freedom. It doesn't give us back our peace. I know, she whispered. I know. We remained silent for several minutes. Finally, I stood up. I didn't come here to forgive you, I said. I came to tell you that I'm not going to let what you did destroy me. I came to look you in the eyes and tell you that I survived, that my family survived, and that we are going to be okay despite you. Tiffany nodded. That's the only thing I can hope for. I also came to tell you something else, I continued. I hope these years in prison change you. I hope that when you get out, if you get out, you are a different person, a better person, because the world doesn't need more people like the one you were. It needs people who build, who help, who love truthfully. I turned to leave. At the door, Tiffany called out to me. Mr. Hayes. I stopped, but didn't turn around. Take good care of Marcus. He is a good man, the best I have ever known. And I was a fool not to value him. Yes, I said, without turning around. You were. And I left. In the car, on the way back home, Arthur asked me how I felt. Strangely liberated, I told him, as if I had closed a chapter. You did close it, Arthur confirmed. Now you can start a new one. And that's exactly what I did. The following months, I focused on rebuilding. I returned to my business. I took on small projects, nothing too demanding, just enough to feel useful, to remind myself that I still had value, that I still had purpose. I also became involved in a support group for older adults who were victims of fraud. There were more than I imagined. Men and women who had lost everything at the hands of family members, acquaintances, or strangers. I shared my story. I told them how I had survived. I gave them practical advice, bulletproof their accounts, distrust insistent questions about money, have a trusted lawyer, never sign anything under pressure, and above all, listen to their gut. That instinct that tells us when something isn't right. Many of them thanked me. They told me that my story had given them hope, that they weren't alone, and that filled me with a purpose I didn't know I needed. Marcus finally sold the apartment where he had lived with Tiffany. With the money, he bought a new one, smaller, more modest, but clean of memories. He decorated it to his taste, without anyone's help, and for the first time in years, I saw him truly happy. I'm learning to be alone, he told me one afternoon while we were having coffee at his new place. And it's not so bad. In fact, it's good. There's no rush, I told him. Love comes when it has to come, and when it arrives, you'll be ready. You'll know how to recognize it, because now you know what false love looks like. Marcus smiled. I hope so, Dad. I hope so. Naomi and her husband visited us for Christmas that year. It was a quiet celebration. Just the four of us, no strange guests, no unpleasant surprises. We cooked together, we laughed, we remembered Sarah fondly, and we toasted to the future. To family, I said, raising my glass. To the real family. To resilience, Naomi added. To justice, Marcus added. To love, Naomi's husband concluded. That night, after everyone went to sleep, I stayed alone on the terrace, looking at the stars, thinking about everything that had happened, how close I had been to losing everything. Not just my money, but my life, my family, my dignity. But I had survived. I had not only survived, I had won. And I don't mean winning the trial. I mean winning my life back, my peace, my ability to trust, even if it was a little less than before. I thought about Tiffany, locked in her cell, paying for her crimes. A part of me felt sorry for her, for how life had molded her, for the decisions she had made. But another part of me knew that she had chosen her path. No one had forced her. No one had put a knife to her throat. She had seen an opportunity and had taken it. And now, she was paying the consequences, as she should be. I also thought about all the people who weren't as lucky as I was, those who trusted and lost everything, those who signed documents without reading, those who believed the sweet words of professional swindlers. And I felt a responsibility, the responsibility to keep talking, to keep warning, to keep helping, because this wasn't just about me. It was about all of the older adults out there, vulnerable, alone, trusting. They needed to know that there are bad people in the world, people who see seniors as easy targets, as bags of money waiting to be looted, and they needed to know how to protect themselves, how to bulletproof themselves, how to survive. A year after the trial, I was invited to give a talk at Emory University. The topic was asset protection for older adults. I accepted, nervous. I had never spoken in front of so many people. But when I got to the auditorium and saw the masses of the people sitting there, many of them seniors like me, I knew I had to do it. I went up to the podium and started talking. I told them my story, unfiltered, omitting nothing. I told them about Tiffany, her manipulations, the laxative, the plan to rob me, how my son saved me, how justice prevailed. And when I finished, the auditorium erupted in applause. People came up afterward. They thanked me. They hugged me. Some cried. "Thank you for speaking," a woman about 70 years old told me. "I'm experiencing something similar with my nephew, and I didn't know what to do. Now I know I'm not crazy, that my suspicions are valid. Trust your instinct," I told her, "and seek help. A lawyer, the police, you are not alone." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "I will. I promise." That night, driving back home, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Satisfaction, purpose. I felt that everything I had lived through, all the pain, all the fear, had served a purpose. To help others. To prevent more people from going through the same thing. Today, nigh 2 years after that Christmas Eve, my life is different. Quieter, more cautious, but also richer in many ways. I have a closer relationship with my children. I talk to Naomi almost every day. Marcus comes over for Sunday dinner. Sometimes he brings a new woman he's seeing. I don't ask much. I just observe. And so far, they all seem genuine, normal, with no red flags. I also have new friends, people from the support group, people who understand, who have lived through similar betrayals. We meet once a month. We talk. We support each other. We remind ourselves that we are survivors, not victims. survivors. My properties remain intact, my accounts are bulletproofed, and my will is updated and protected. Arthur makes sure of that. And I sleep peacefully, knowing that no one can touch what took me a lifetime to build. Well, almost peacefully. There are still nights when I wake up sweating, when I dream of stairs, of falls, of poison in my food. But they are becoming less frequent. Dr. Rhodes says it's normal, that trauma doesn't disappear overnight, that you have to be patient. And I am patient, because I learned that healing is not linear, that there are good days and bad days, and that it's okay not to be okay all the time, but it's also okay to celebrate the small victories, like sleeping through the night without nightmares, like trusting someone new, like truly laughing without faking it. If I could give one piece of advice to anyone going through something similar, it would be this. Don't ignore the signs, those little alarms that go off in your head when something doesn't feel right, those questions that are repeated too often, those behaviors that don't fit. Your instinct exists for a reason. Listen to it. And if you are already in the middle of a situation like this, if you have already discovered the betrayal, remember this. You are not alone. There is help. There is justice. There is a way out. Find a lawyer. Gather evidence. Talk to the police. And don't be afraid to confront. Because your life, your assets, your dignity are worth more than any toxic relationship, more than any false family peace. I also learned something about forgiveness. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It's not saying everything is fine. Forgiveness is deciding that you will not carry the weight of hatred forever. It is deciding that the person who hurt you will not control your future. It is liberating yourself, not them, you. And that is something only you can do. No one else. I still haven't completely forgiven Tiffany. Maybe I never will, but I don't think about her every day anymore. I no longer feel rage when I hear her name. I no longer wish for her destruction. I only wish that she learns, that she changes, and that she never hurts anyone again. That is the closest I have been to forgiveness. And for now, it is enough. What happened to me was terrible. It was traumatic. It was unfair. But it also taught me something valuable. It taught me who the people who truly love me are. It taught me that family is not always blood. Sometimes it's selection. It taught me that I am stronger than I thought, that I can face fear, that I can survive betrayal, and that I can use my experience to help others. So, if you are listening to this, and you are going through something similar, I want you to know something. You will get out of this. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but you will get out. And when you do, you will be stronger, wiser, more cautious, but also more alive, because you will have faced one of the worst fears of the human being, the betrayal of someone close. And you will have survived. And that, my friend, is something you can be proud of. Because not everyone succeeds. Not everyone has the courage to confront, to fight, to seek justice. But you do, and I do too. And that makes us warriors, gray-haired warriors, perhaps tired warriors, but warriors nonetheless. Now every time sitting on my terrace to drink and coffee, every time I watch the sunset over Atlanta, every time I hear my children's laughter, I feel gratitude. Gratitude for being alive, for having survived, for having a second chance. Because many don't have it. Many lose everything. Many end up alone, confused, stripped of everything they built. But not me. I am here. With my house. With my children. With my dignity intact. And with a story to tell. A story that I hope helps someone, anyone who needs it. Because if my pain can prevent the pain of another person, then it was worth it. Everything was worth it. So, thank you. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for making it this far. And remember, protect what is yours. Trust your instinct. Surround yourself with good people. And if you ever face a betrayal like mine, don't give up. Fight, seek justice, and survive from. Because the world needs more survivors. More voices that tell the truth. More people who say, I went through this, and I came out ahead. And if I could, you can too. May God bless you. May He protect you. And may you never, ever have to live what I lived. But if you do, remember my story, and remember that there is a way out. There is always a way out. Take good care of yourself, and take care of your loved ones. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is the people we love, the people who truly love us. Everything else is secondary. This is my story, the story of Elijah Hayes, a man who was on the edge of the abyss, but decided to cling to life, to justice, to hope, and who today, 2 years later, can say with his head held high, I survived, and not only did I survive, I triumphed. Thank you for listening from the bottom of my heart. And may what happened to me never happen to you. But if it does, you already know what to do. You already know that you are not alone. And you already know that there is justice, that there is hope, that there is life after betrayal. Until next time, friends. And remember, true family is the one that stays when everything collapses. Cherish it, protect it, and never, ever take it for granted, because I learned the hard way. Not everyone who smiles is family, and not everyone who calls themselves family is loyal. But the ones who are, the ones who truly are, they are worth all the gold in the world. God bless you all.